Okay, so yeah, Minewars is a multiplayer real-time strategy game that's based on Minesweeper, and the actual Minewars game mode I cannot show off right now, unfortunately, because I have some problems with networking. But I can still show a bunch of really cool things. This thing that I have open right now is my simple multiplayer Minesweeper mode, which is just like classic Minesweeper, except that it's multiplayer. And um, I can show off some of the cool Rust technology that I made to make it possible. Um, but first of all, about the game itself. Minewars is on a procedurally generated map, which is like an island, like a continent, and there's mountains and some different geography and things like that. And in the actual game, there are cities that you compete for, and those cities produce things for you. They kind of generate income for you based on the territory you own. You can kind of think of it a little bit like Civ, where you have the surrounding region that are around the city, and based on the resources in that region, your city is going to produce stuff. And you can build buildings, you can build roads to connect cities, you can build towers and walls and things like that. And the goal of the game is to capture other players' cities. And you get eliminated from the game when you lose all of your cities. So you have to own at least one city at all times. And I'm just going to start another instance of the game for a moment because I want to show something. So every city has its surrounding region. Like if this is the city location here, there is the region around it. And you can see I have this highlights that shows it visually. And whatever territory you own around in this region is going to generate income for the city. And the money of your city you can spend on defensive and offensive actions. So you can buy your own mines that you can place on your territory to defend yourself. So if, say, for example, you had like some territory here, you could figure out some creative formations of mines that you could place in between the mountains here to block off the choke points and make your enemies have to solve a complicated Minesweeper puzzle if they want to attack you and take your territory. So the micro gameplay, the moment-to-moment gameplay is basically Minesweeper. You see the digits and you need to figure out where the enemy mines are and avoid them. But also you can strike them to explode them. So you can pay some money to explode a certain tile. If there's a mine there, you'll destroy it. You can you can flag a bunch of tiles and then you can strike those tiles to destroy the mines there. I can't show it in action right now because it's not ready yet. Hopefully next month. The moment-to-moment gameplay is you place mines to defend yourself and you try to invade enemy territory to capture their land by figuring out where their mines are based on the Minesweeper digits. And things are made more interesting because they're actually not just regular mines, they're also decoys. And you can see, for example, if I switch to the player one view here. Yeah, so you can see some of the digits have an asterisk next to them. The asterisk means that one of those nearby tiles has a decoy. Or not one, but some of those. So like the digit 2 means that there are 2 items in the nearby tiles, but the asterisk means that at least one of them is a decoy. So at least one of them is actually safe to step on. And because I already know the mines here, based on these ones, I know that one of those 2 must be the decoy, and both of those 2 are actually safe. And I can just click on them and see I exploded the decoy. I broke the decoy, and now the digits changed. And I know here it's safe. And yeah, I know here it's safe. It's the Minesweeper puzzle. And here is not safe. But for example, I know both of these are safe because I've already flagged this one, and the asterisk means that one of these must be a decoy. So I can just click on them and destroy the decoy. So in the real game, you can plant both mines and decoys to make the puzzle for the enemy more challenging. And there are also there's also another mechanic, which is the smoke. So you can deploy a smoke onto an enemy tile to hide the digit on that tile, and that way you can obscure some information from the enemy. And you can also place a trap. And if the enemy steps on the trap, it shows up as a decoy. And if the enemy steps on it, then all the adjacent tiles will get smoked. And so this way you can actually build some quite elaborate tactics for the moment-to-moment micro gameplay. If you want to defend your territory, you can plant creative formations of mines and decoys and traps and use smokes to obscure information when the enemy is attacking you, to slow down the enemy. And when you're trying to invade the enemy, you try to solve the Minesweeper puzzle and strike their mines. So every time there's an explosion, whether it's because you stepped on a mine or because you decided to strike those tiles, you will actually destroy the resources on that tile. And I think this is a kind of almost kind of a cool political message, because by the end of the game, most of the map will be covered in craters from explosions, and most of the natural resources will be gone, and it will be like a post-war apocalypse, which I think is kind of cool. So you're fighting for territory, and you have these multiple players, and you're planting mines, and you're trying to blow up those mines and capture each other's territory and so on. And in the process, you destroy the resources on the land. And yeah, so this map is pretty big. You can see, like in the actual game, I might have a bigger kind of casual game mode where you can have like 6 or 8 players or something like that on a big map like this with maybe say 10 cities, and you compete for like a big territory. And there could also be a dual mode where the map is small, like we can have a smaller map, and on the smaller map it can be just 1v1 with just 2 players. Yeah, oh, by the way, I forgot one of the basic game mechanics. When you step on a mine, it's not fatal, like in Minesweeper. When you step on a mine, you just get stunned. You have a timeout, like 5 or 10 second timeout, where you can't do anything. So that's punishing enough, because in this game, every second matters. And if you step on a mine and you die, and the other players will be able to use your timeout to invade into your territory and capture a lot of your land, and you can't really do anything about it. And you only get permanently eliminated from the game if you lose all of your cities. So yeah, it's kind of, you need to capture those cities. They're like the checkpoints of the game. So there will be a scoreboard on the screen that says how many cities each player has. So you'll be able to see on the top of the screen here, like a mini scoreboard. Imagine like kind of the UI that you have in a game like Counter-Strike, where you have the player avatars here at the top, and you can see at a glance how many players are alive and things like that. So I'm still working on that, so I can't show it off today. So maybe next month the game will be in a more of a complete state, and I'll be able to show off the actual Minewars multiplayer game mode. For today, I don't have that ready. So all I can really show you is just some basic Minesweeper. And yeah, one of the cool things that I did was I developed this Rust framework that allows me to playtest all the different player views within the same game client without networking. So this game right now is running completely offline. It's running just within the clients, and I can control all 3 of the player territories. So I can just use F1, F2, F3 to switch between the different views and see what So right now I'm looking at the green view to see what the green player is seeing. And now I'm looking at the blue view. So I see like what player 2 is seeing on the map. And this way I can check to make sure that all the game code is working correctly, because one of the most challenging things with developing this game is making sure that the game state is consistent for all players, because the server is only going to send each client the data that it actually needs. So every view has different data associated with it. It has its own different version of the game state. So it's very easy to introduce some bugs by accidentally sending some updates to player 1 and forgetting to send them to player 2, and things like that. And this feature allows me to debug and troubleshoot that. I can switch between the 3 different views and make sure that everything is consistent, the digits appear correctly, because these digits are not client-side, they are server-side, of course. So the server is sending updates to say what the digits should be on each tile. And yeah, keeping the game states, the game view consistent between all players is one of the big development challenges for this game. I can control whichever player I want. So like, for example, now I pressed F1 to view the red player, but I can press Shift F2 to control the blue player. So now I'm watching the game from the point of view of the red player, but I'm actually controlling the blue player. And if I press here, for example, I will be capturing land using the blue player. Now I can press F2 to view what the blue player sees, and I can now I'm both playing as the blue player and also viewing the game as the blue player. And now I can switch to the green player. So now I can play the game as the green player to all of this framework, I think, was very important to develop because it laid the foundation for me to be able to actually implement the complex gameplay of this game. The previous prototypes I had were very buggy, and it was enough to kind of serve as a proof of concept and for me to be able to play test some of the basic gameplay with my friends, but it was not enough to be released to the public. So that's why I've never released a demo of this game. And for this version of the game, it's kind of a half rewrite. I'm taking a lot of old code and reworking it and rewriting parts of it, and I'm trying to lay better foundations. I'm trying to avoid technical debt. I'm trying to set everything up so that the architecture for both the client and the server and for the gameplay code and for the graphics and for everything is flexible enough for me to be able to debug everything and play test everything, because I want to actually implement this game properly. And there is a surprising amount of complexity that comes up when you try to write some game logic on the server, and it's a multiplayer game where every player has a different view of the game and different information. The information is asymmetric. So you're not just trying to sync some entities between client and server, you're managing multiple different points of view and sending each player their relevant information. And you have to do it in a way that's going to make sure that they're not going to be able to cheat at the game. They're not going to get any information that they're not supposed to know. And you also need to do it in a way that's consistent, because if you accidentally send the wrong digit because you forgot to update it when something else was updated, that will be misleading and it will be a bug in the gameplay. And it's very easy to introduce such bugs. And yeah, the idea for this game started originally as I'm going to make a multiplayer Minesweeper, but I don't want it to just be the boring multiplayer Minesweeper because that's already been done before. I want to make a more interesting strategy game where you actually have an objective, and it's not just about the Minesweeper. The Minesweeper is the moment-to-moment combat, essentially, but I want to make it more interesting. And up until last year, the gameplay actually involved like chained explosions and things like that, and you could cause a mine to explode and take out nearby mines that way. And then I realized that that's too overpowered and it actually breaks the game. So we redesigned a lot of the gameplay mechanics with my best friend this summer. We spent the summer brainstorming and basically redesigning the whole game. So in the original idea was to be able to move mines around. So as you capture territory, you capture the mines on that territory, and now you can move them around and reposition them. And that evolved into being able to put them into an inventory and having an inventory system where you can remove the mines and then deploy the mines. And then that evolved into a shop system where now in this version of the game that's not ready yet, in the next version of the game, we're going to have a shop and we're going to have an economy where instead of moving mines around, or instead of having an inventory with a certain number of mines, a certain number of decoys or whatever, you just have money. And the city is generating income, and then you spend that money on gameplay actions. You buy mines and decoys with your money, and you can also perform offensive actions like deploying smokes or striking certain tiles to cause explosions and take away enemy mines, or construct buildings and things like that. And you do all of that with the money that you accumulate over time from your cities having access to natural resources like the mountains and the forests and things like that. And the way you capture things in this game is by surrounding them from all sides. So, for example, when you reach an enemy city in Minewars, say you're starting from here, and you expand, and you reach the enemy city, you need to capture all of the surrounding land and hold it for 5 seconds or 10 seconds or something, and then you capture the city. If you want to capture a mountain cluster, you have to surround it on all sides, so you just kind of capture the surrounding land. The actual mountains themselves are not playable. You cannot get any digits, you cannot have any mines or anything. The mountains and the forests are resource clusters, so you own them as long as you own the surrounding land, and you can and they will give you money every second. So for every tile you own, you will get like +1 or +2 or +3 depending on the tile kind every second. And then you can use that money to play the game, to buy mines, to strike tiles and things like that. I think it's going to be a very interesting multiplayer experience. It's going to be quite unique. I've never really seen anything like it. It's not just multiplayer Minesweeper, it's an actual multiplayer strategy game. And it's not a typical RTS either, because you don't really have units, you don't have things like health bars and armies of units that you move around and things like that. You're basically playing Minesweeper, but also it's about the strategy. It's about making use of the geography of the map. It's about being able to place your defensive items, being able to place formations of mines and decoys, being able to think faster than your enemy, being able to solve the Minesweeper puzzles faster, building road connections between your cities so that you can share the resources between them, building walls and other defensive structures. It's quite an elaborate game, and I'm really looking forward to be able to play this new version because it evolved so much. The old version of the game was kind of boring. It was just a multiplayer Minesweeper with chained explosions and being able to move the mines around. But now it will actually have an economy and more of a strategic aspect, because yeah, I don't want to just make Minesweeper. I want to turn Minesweeper into a cool strategy game where you have a meta game. You can think about different approaches to the game, about controlling territory, about map control, about positioning on the map, about multiple front lines. When you have borders with multiple enemies and they could attack you at any time, and being able to lay your defenses and so on. And I think it's going to be really cool. So I don't know how we are on time. I think I'm running out of time. But if anyone's interested in specific technical things about the game, like the frameworks that I've implemented for this playground mode and multiplayer and things like that, I think now's the time to ask questions. I can show you some of the Rust code if you want. Yeah, the game is partially open source, by the way. So by partially, I mean that the game client is open source, and the frameworks are open source, and all of the Bevy code and things like that is open source. But the main Minewars game mode is going to be proprietary. So I can make a custom build of the game where I enable the proprietary extra features to have the full-featured game client and game server that is able to play the proper multiplayer game mode. But you can also just clone the GitHub repo and make an open source build. It's not going to be able to play the actual main game mode, but it's going to be able to play back replay files, and it's going to have all of the graphics code in it. It's going to have most of the technology in it. So if you want to learn from my code, if you want to copy some stuff into your own projects and so on, most of the pretty much all of the technology and the foundations for this game are open source. You can copy the tech. I'm just keeping the main game mode logic, the main gameplay logic proprietary.
Perfect. So we are running a bit short on time because we do have quite a few presentations, but oh my gosh, do I ever want to talk about this? Like I'll ask one question that I was thinking. And so I really like that it's like real time and you're doing Minesweeper. And I have those friends who, when they play Minesweeper, they just like click, 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 like just they see the puzzle, they've solved it. And so I really imagine that like at a high level of gameplay, it would be so interesting to like zoom out on the map and see how people are like just like traversing it so quickly. What I'm kind of curious about is what would this game mechanic or like this sort of mechanic style work well if you had 3 people that were on the same team and 3 people that were on like an enemy team, as if it was like some competitive game.
Yeah, so I have all of the groundwork laid down to be able to experiment with all kinds of different multiplayer dynamics. The code supports it, and I'm going to do it. One of the ideas I have is to have alliances. So you could start a game, and when you reach another player, you could propose an alliance, and you could say, "Hey, let's be allies." And if the other person accepts your alliance, now you can see their entire territory. You have shared information, and the game will protect you from attacking each other. You will not be able to attack each other's territory, and you'll have shared visibility. So you'll be able to play the game together until you break the alliance. And you will also have some communications, like maybe in-game chats and maybe voice communications, if I can get that working, if I can figure out how to implement it. And also, I will have another game mode which is inspired by a lot of the recent battle royale games and so on, where you can have like duos where 2 players are controlling the same territory. You join the game with your friend, and you're playing as the same color, controlling a single territory. That's also an option that's supported by my code, and it will be very trivial to enable. And I'm really looking forward to experimenting with all of these different multiplayer dynamics. I think when I release the first public version of the game, I'm going to be able to have the regular competitive game mode, which is, say, for example, going to be like 4-player elimination match. And with a lot of also neutral cities on a bigger map. So there's some of the cities start out neutral, and you can go and you can capture some cities without engaging another player immediately. I think I'm going to have a mayhem or like crazy mode where it's on a more claustrophobic map where there's exactly 1 starting city for each player, and you have more players and you have to immediately engage another player to progress into the game. I'm going to have like duels. I'm going to have duels where 2 players play as 1 territory. And I'm also going to have a casual mode where you can hop in and out at any time. So like players can join mid-game and drop out mid-game from the casual mode, which is going to be really nice because I suspect one of the initial challenges for this game would be growing a player base. For a multiplayer game, you need players. And if you don't have many players, you can't really do matchmaking. You can't really have proper competitive gameplay because nobody is going to be able to... People are going to want to play the game, but there are not going to be enough other people to play with that are online and ready to join a match. So I think the casual mode is a good solution because you can just hop in and out of it anytime, and it doesn't actually need to find a certain number of players to start the match.
Okay.
So you'll be able to play casual while you're waiting for your competitive match or something like that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I really like these like there's like multitude of different ways to play, and I imagine that there's like some higher level abstractions that allow you to say like, oh, I want to change the game mode a little bit. I want to make these small tweaks, and I just have to change a few lines, not like hundreds of lines. Is that sort of how it is?
Everything is very configurable, and that is the reason why I kind of did this half rewrites instead of just iterating on my old prototype. My old prototype was very just kind of set and baked into the code how the game should be, and very inflexible to continue further development. So now with this new version of the game, I've taken a lot of care to avoid that sort of technical debt, so that everything is very reconfigurable. It's very flexible. The game as it is right now, you can easily make an offline mode that is single player, an offline multiplayer mode like the one that I'm just showing you here. It has no networking, and you can control all the players from one game client. I can make you can play on LAN. You can host your own server very easily. You can change all the game parameters. You can decide how many players per territory, how many clients per territory, how many like the map generation parameters and things like that. And it's very easy to tweak.
Mm-hmm.
So my main priority with this version of the game, the reason why I'm doing this rewrites is because I want this flexibility to be able to playtest a lot of different variations on the same gameplay concept, to be able to organize a LAN party with some friends here locally and get a bunch of people to play the game and try all kinds of different variations on the same game, with different numbers of players, with different map sizes, with different number of cities, with say some different mechanics enabled or disabled and things like that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It sounds like it'd be super fun in the upcoming few months, and so I definitely want to hear about it again. I think it'd be so cool if we could like sort of see how it plays with like multiplayer and stuff like that. And so I definitely hope to see you in future months to hear an update on Minewars.
Yeah, I think I'll be here next month, and after that to show more progress, hopefully.
Perfect. All right. Well, Ida, thank you so much for coming out today. And we will be back in just a few seconds with Kvark, who will be showing off Blade.